Welcome to another edition of His Healthy Habits. This is Mr. Triple H himself, and today's guest is a special guest where we'll be focusing today on business credit, and she's going to give you all the information, inspiration, instruction, and more towards helping you out and anybody else who may be watching this episode. And her name is KiKi. What's going on, KiKi?
Hello, how are you?
All right, KiKi. So let's tell the people who you are, what you do, your nickname. What's your nickname again you go by?
KiKi.
No, did you have like the business credit, the credit gal?
Oh, yeah, it's like in my bio, the credit gal.
Yeah, okay. So just so they know.
Okay. So, hi, everybody. My name is KiKi. I'm from Philadelphia. I moved to Houston a year and a half ago. And I got a credit company where I help other individuals like myself help leverage their personal credit into business credit. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay. So how'd you get into this?
So for starters, I had terrible credit as a younger person, or like 18. So I don't come from a family that is educated about credit or any personal finances or financial literacy. So when I was in college, I got a bunch of credit cards. So my first card was Victoria's Secret, Nordstrom's, and I got an Amazon card at the time. So I maxed them all out because I was a broke college student and I just needed clothes, I needed food, I needed whatever. So after I graduated, I started receiving like collection letters, and I had no idea what they meant. And then unfortunately my car had broke, and then I had to be an adult and get my own car. So I went to a dealership, and one thing about the dealership is regardless of what kind of car you want, they're going to get you approved. So I applied for my car, and I was in the dealership for about 4 hours. And I walked out with a car. So I walked out with a 2015, and the note on there was about $400. So it was financed by Capital One. And then about 6 months later, I looked at the app, and I always made my payments on time. And I looked at the app, and it basically told you the interest and how much you were paying actually towards the car. So basically, in the 6 month span, I only paid about $150 towards the car. The rest was towards the interest. So I didn't quite understand that. So I called, which is now my friend. He's also my mentor. And I explained to him the situation. So he said, well, what's your interest rate? And I said 16.4. And he was like, that's extremely high. So I didn't understand what that meant. So part of the things that I love about my mentor is that he'll feed me information, but it's my job to go above and beyond of what he taught me. So it allowed me to think outside the box. So once I kind of started researching and understood what interest rate was, I realized that I had to get my interest rate down. So I had some work to do. So I looked at my credit report, and it was at a 534, which is bad. So once I figured that out, like what was wrong with it and how to dispute the late payments and dispute the collections. So the biggest thing I learned is that having something in collections is illegal because you can't sell a debt to another person. So if you owe me money, I can't say, okay, I'm done with you. You owe my mom money now. I still owe you money. So all the debt collection agency is just trying to get the money from you. However, I do urge my clients to not pay debt unless it's like $500 or less. So if it's $500 or less, I always say, well, the collection agency, call them and say, can I have a pay to delete letter saying, if I pay this allegedly owed debt, then you'll delete it off my credit. However, if it's not in writing, you don't do it. You can just dispute it off. So fast forward, what happened was I ended up figuring it out, and I ended up getting my credit from a 534 to about a 720. And then from there, I called my mentor. I'm like, I got a 720. He said, all right, we're about to buy a house. So I'm like, a house? We were just fixing credit. What are you talking about, a house? So about 2 months later, I was at the closing table with my mentor, and I closed on my first property in Philly. And then from there, it was kind of like, let me just see if I can turn this into a business. So I just started experimenting with my friends and family around me. And once I realized I knew what I was doing, I was like, all right, we can start something now.
Yeah, start flipping. Okay. Yeah. Well, you have a lot of free game just right there in that intro. I appreciate it. I was like, you piqued my interest on a couple of things. So when you said you like the interest rates, you recognize like, all right, this interest rate is too high. I ain't gonna lie, even from my perspective, somebody like me, like we always don't know. Like, you know, we see like, okay, yeah, bet I got this low payment of $400 or $500 maybe. I'll take it. Right. You know, because, you know, us being the normal person is like, I just need a car or I just need a house. So like, how did you find out like what is like a high interest rate, or what is a high interest rate compared to normal like nowadays, you know? So
the market right now is crazy as far as like cars and interest rates. So typically like an interest rate is like 2%. Like 2% or under is a perfect interest rate because you're not really paying so much on if it's a property or a car. But once you start seeing double digits like 10%, 11%, 12%, the interest rates are higher. Like you're paying more towards the lender than the actual property or whatever the asset is. And then you got to look at it, is this an asset or is this a liability?
Yeah. Can you negotiate your interest rates up?
No, so they base it upon your credit.
Mm.
So that's why when you fix your personal credit, then, I mean, certain instances, like, not to go too deep into it, but when you go through hard money lenders, their interest rates are typically higher, but then you can refinance it for a lower interest rate.
I mean, you can. What's a hard money lender?
So if you're buying a property, it's like somebody that gives you money. So you know how people think like, oh, hard money lenders are hard to find? They're not. Since I moved to Texas, I found about 15 hard money lenders that will lend you money, but sometimes some people do it for collateral, but most of the time they don't. So it's just like if I want to buy a property and it's $250,000, I don't have $250,000, so I'm going to the hard money lender to fund me the money. But to the lender, it has to make sense. So when you put it on paper, let's say the comps for the area, let's say the house goes for about $250,000, but they're selling this house for $250,000 and it only needs $100,000 worth of work. The lender might be like, all right, it's worth it, so I'll lend you the money, but you just got to pay him back.
So what's the difference between a hard money lender and a regular lender?
The interest rates is just different. So a regular lender is like the bank, and then a hard money lender is like a person.
So it's not like a credit union or anything?
No. So a credit union is a bank or like a regular lender or a funder, and then a hard money lender is John or B. Burr Investments or something like that, but it's a smaller business with more money.
So it's not like places like you hear like Ally Financial and stuff like that?
No.
It's even smaller than that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's where kind of like the network aspect comes in, because when you start moving around, you start meeting people, then you start meeting hard money lenders. So I had the opportunity this past weekend to meet a great hard money lender, and let's say the bank will only front me $50,000. That hard money lender was going to take different aspects as far as like the bank is going to look at my credit report, my late payments, my history. Where the hard money lender would be like, all right, you have a 600. You may have been late two or three times, but I'll still give you 70,000. So it's like a big difference between the bank and the hard money lender. But you can always refinance.
So how do you find these people who are hard money lenders? Can you Google them or what? Like,
So one of the things I think that's really slept on is Facebook groups. So one of the things when I moved here, I just started joining all these like Facebook groups, and then I joined like an investment group, and I typed like, hey, does anybody know any hard money lenders? And a bunch of them just popped up like, hey, like reach out to me. So it's really like networking. And then my mentor, he has a ton of hard money lenders because he's into real estate. He's a real estate investor. So just networking with him and him introducing me to other people.
Yeah, because I'm a business owner, but I don't think I've heard, maybe I'm just like a novice to it, but I've never heard like a hard money lender, that term. And I've got a lot of loans, you know, of course, over my life. So I guess like, do you think, so you said Facebook, but it's not like something you can like Google, like where can I find a hard money lender at?
I've never Googled like hard money lender because I feel like since I network a lot, like they kind of just bring them to me. But with like Google, we probably have to just research more just to make sure that the lender makes sense. But I feel like a person, now don't quote me on this, but I feel like a person is probably not going to be on like Google. Yeah. Because it's more of like you got to know somebody type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you also said that you got your credit from 5 to 7.
Yeah.
And no matter like how long was that?
It was a year. It was like an overnight process.
Okay,
yeah. That's one thing that I stress to my clients, is that everybody's credit report is different. So I had a client and she had about 4 late payments and 1 thing in collections, and then 1 round, which is 35 days, everything came off. Yeah. And then her score jumped from like a 635 to a 750. Now, how did that happen that fast? That God can only answer that, because that's not really like an ideal thing. Yeah. But I also have other clients, you know, that I might start. It might take 6 months for something to come off. Typically, like bankruptcies, repos, they take a year because you're going back and forth with the courts. But it's really no standardized time. But that's just how long I took, especially since I was learning and researching and trial and error with my personal credit.
Yeah. So you think it's is it easier to go through like a person like you as an individual, or like, you know, people think like I know Credit Karma and stuff like that. That's like the normal thing. But what do you think is like better or a better route than doing that with the average person? Like, I'm gonna sign up for a subscription with Credit Karma, and then hopefully by this time next year I have 100-point difference in my credit score.
So Credit Karma uses something called a Vantage score. So that's not your accurate score. So when you go to lenders or banks, they use your FICO score. So I either say you can sign up for Experian and get the free trial, and they'll give you across all 3. But I do Identity IQ because it's the most accurate, and it's very simple. Like, it tells you how many inquiries you have, how many late payments you have, how many addresses, how many jobs you have. So it's very specific. And then it updates every 30 days. So one thing that I do with my clients is I give them a credit analysis before you even start the process. So I let them know what's on there, what's hurting them, How can we help them? What's your goals for 3 to 6 months from now? What's your year goal? What can you do while I'm fixing your credit? Because a lot of times people think like, all right, I'm getting my personal credit fixed, so I can't do nothing. Business credit and personal credit is two different things. So you're two separate entities. So while we're working on your personal credit, on the back end, you could be building your business credit up, and it has nothing to do with your personal credit.
So, say for instance, when you buy like a car, do you have to use your social? Or can you give them like your EIN, your not your NAV, but whatever, I forgot the other. The DUNS number.
So I've never bought a car in my business name, but I know that you can use your EIN to purchase a car in your business name because it's a tax write-off. But the car has to be a certain weight. So I know like G-Wagons. A lot of people buy G-Wagons in their business name. But then it's like I'm not an accountant, so I can't give like the right thing to write it off for. But I just know it's a tax write-off when you do it.
Yeah. So I think like what's harder to build, your business credit or your personal credit? Or they both kind of like align the same?
I feel like if your personal credit is jacked up, then it's going to take longer. But once it's not, because you can get business credit without, if you can find a lender that will do no PG, then you're fine.
What's the no PG?
No personal guarantee. So if you find a lender that's like, all right, well, we can just go solely off of your business credit, then it'll be easier to get money. Like Divvy is one that just goes off of the money in your bank account. So it doesn't look at your credit, it doesn't look at your personal, but it's a net 30. So that means in 30 days.
What's Divvy? Is that like a loan or a credit card?
Yeah, it's a business credit card. So a net 30 within 30 days. So if you spend $5,000 in 30 days, you got to pay that full $5,000 back.
In 30 days?
In 30 days, yeah. So you got to make sure that the money that you're using, you're getting it back.
So is like Divvy a good credit card to build your personal or your business?
Your business. It's strictly business, no personal, yeah. Capital on Tap is a net 30, which is another business credit card, and it gives you 60 days to pay, which gives you more leeway. But I always say, when I first started like the entrepreneurship journey, I'm very impulsive. So I used to just be like, all right, well, when I first moved here, I started doing Turo. I was like, all right, I'm going to buy these cars, and I'm going to have a ball, and I'm going to have fun. And then a year later, I'm like, I hate Turo. This is not for me. It was worth the try, but I'm done. So I think now just kind of be more strategic about the money and what you're doing with your money makes the most sense. But I actually had a friend that she ended up buying something that was about $12,000, and then little did she know, 30 days later, Divvy swiped her bank account for the $12,000. So now she's like, what the heck? I didn't know that, it was a net 30. But it's all about trial and error. Yeah. You just said something, too, because I was thinking about getting into the Turo business. And so, like, I was going to buy a car. I was just on the fence with, like, financing or, or paying cash. So I decided I wanted to do finance. So, so I did that. But the interest rate was a little high because, I'm still trying to rebuild my credit back up from what it was like when the pandemic hit. But so why do you say like why did you not do the business Turo thing? Like why I know it's kind of going off topic. It's fine. Yeah, I still want to know if that's for me. I'm thinking about delving into that. So I think with me, I'm not a car person, and I would say that what I've learned from Turo is that it's very effective when it's automated and when you have a team. So I moved out here by myself, and I was like, well, we going to figure this out because I'm a just get up and go type of person. But it was hard. And at first, it was like the numbers with Turo. So let's say you want to rent it out for $100. They'll give you a range. So if you put 100 to 200, they'll give you the range between that. So let's say it's only $150 a day. Then you have to do the math about, okay, how many times a month did this car have to be run out for me to make a profit and to also pay the note? Then on top of that, I felt like the miles that they give you on Turo doesn't add up to how much that they're paying you. So let's say if one of my cars ran out for $60 a day, they were giving that person 1,500 miles. I felt like that didn't make sense to me. And then also, I felt like what I should have did was bought the car in my business name, which I didn't know at the time, instead of my personal because it messed up my DTI. And then what's a DTI? A debt to income ratio. Okay. So although I was bringing in money from Turo, if I was going to the bank, they'd have been looking like you have a $50,000 car and you're not, like your DTI is messed up. You have two cars, you have a house. Like I have all this stuff under my personal name. Credit. And since I'm not really filing taxes on it, it's just like, well, what are you doing? So it would look to the bank, it would look to me like I'm a risky person. They wouldn't give me no money. But I will say, like, I do have friends that have fleets, like they have 6 or 7 cars, and they say, like, outside of Turo, so they do hire car and they do personal private rentals. So private rentals is like basically you rent to people that that know you or they might heard of you. But it's a whole different type of risk because you got to get a different type of insurance for that. Okay. But with hire car, you don't really have your car because that's for people that do Uber and that do Lyft and they don't have a car. So you don't really see your car because they need that car to make their money. So if I could go back and do it, I definitely would have probably fell back from Turo and went more into hire car because I didn't want to see my car. So it was just like, all right, y'all can have the car. Just make sure that, you know, I get my money. And that was that. But I feel like it's an okay investment, but I just wouldn't stay on Turo because they do have a lot of rules too as well. Yeah. And with people that have hire car, they're going to wash your car. They're going to keep it clean. With Turo, one of the people that rented my car out, they went somewhere in the mud, and my car came back muddy. And guess who had to clean it? So I was like, this is not for me.
That's interesting you said because I literally we just right before yours we did an interview with a girl, shout out to Natasha, and she actually was talking about Turo. That's why I asked. So let me ask you this: so say you do that. Say like you're a person who gets a couple cars, your house. And on your personal credit side using your social, can you switch it to your business?
Yeah,
like,
you
say,
can.
So I just bought a car, right? I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't know I should have bought it and put it in my business credit name and put it in my EIN.
Right.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can switch it over from your personal. I actually switched my house from under my personal to my LLC because here I go moving fast again. I bought my house under my personal, and then I was like, well, my DTI is messed up because if I have a $250 house under my name, then they're going to be looking like, well, girl, like, what's going on? So I switched my house from my personal to my LLC. But the thing with LLCs is they're very generic. So every LLC that I have is like names that you can't guess what the business is. So it's very generic. So I always say for every house that I buy, it'll have a different LLC just in case somebody slips and falls. They can only come after that one property and not all the other properties that I gain.
Yeah. So how hard is that process when you do because it's a lot of business owners and when they'll start a business, they don't know anything about LLCs, EINs, DUNS number, none of that. You know what I'm saying? For the average person.
Right.
Including myself. But, so what do you, how hard or how, I guess, strenuous is that process? Like, now you got everything under your social. And you're like, oh, shoot. I got $500,000 in debt.
Right.
And how do I switch some of this off over to my EIN or my LLC or S Corp or whatever?
So I was lucky because my mom is also in real estate. So I just told my mom I need my house transfer, and she just did a transfer for me, the deed transfer. So I just transferred the deed from me to my LLC, and my mom just did it for me. And that process, it just depends on how fast the state wants to pick up and move it. So it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. Pennsylvania at the time was backed up, so it took about 6 months from the transfer from my personal to my business. But as far as a car, I haven't transferred a car, so I don't want to provide any knowledge. I think I know how to do it, but I'm just not going to provide any knowledge on how to do it because I could be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting to know. So why business credit? Why did you choose to go into business credit versus personal credit?
I think so. In the beginning, I realized that personal credit was cool until you realize how much more money you can get with business. So essentially, you're one person. I could talk about your social security number. You know the difference. Well, the same thing about a LLC, a EIN number, and your social security number is the same amount of digits. So America sees you as a business, as an individual, in which I realized. So once I kind of figured out that I can use my EIN number as me, and they'll give me money for my business, then it's like, wait a second, I don't need to really focus on personal anymore because it's so much more money that I can get with my EIN number. So I started with personal, and I think my first actual real credit card was $25,000, and I was like, geez, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, well, I can take some trips, I can buy some bags. And I was like, I think I was 21. And I'm like, I'm 21 with a $25,000 credit card, and my mentor was like, before you go buy that bag, let's talk about what you can do with your, your personal credit. And then he told me you can liquidate the money off the card so I can turn credit to cash. So if I needed money to close on my house, so I only had to bring $2,500 to the table. But let's say I needed $10,000, I didn't have $10,000. I can take the money off my credit card and bring it to the table. But again, that's messing up my DTI. So if I wanted to buy something else, they're looking at me like, you have no money, so how are you? We're not going to give you more than you can bear. With business, it's not like that. So if you have 5 LLCs, you can open up 5 different accounts, and you can go to 5 different banks. So there are 5 different entities. So let's say I have I go to one bank and I get 10,000, and then with the other four LLCs, I get another 10,000. So from one bank, I can walk out with 50,000, but then I can go to another bank and get another 50,000 if they give me 10,000 for the same 5. With personal credit, you can't do that because I'm still just that one business or that one person.
Yeah.
So once I realized that, and I started surrounding myself by people that are heavily involved in business credit, I was like, well, this is a no-brainer. So I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense for me to just stay or hold myself to personal, because once I got, the personal side, and it was like, okay, personal now is just an option. I can kind of move over to business to expand my business, because I know that under my personal, I can't buy 20 houses. But with my business, I can buy 20 houses because I'm going to have much more money with the business.
Yeah. So you saying basically, if I was going to start, and correct me if I'm wrong, like if I was going to start LLC today, got my EIN, went to, we'll just use Bank of America, and I say, hey y'all, this is my new business.
Right.
Even though I don't have any history on that EIN of like credit, anything, it's a bit higher chance they'll give me $10,000 with that versus going on my personal side and be like, hey, I got a 600 some credit score, you know what I'm saying, a good history of payment in the last year. That means more prone to give me that 10K on a no history side of a brand new business versus 10K on your personal side.
Right.
Really.
So they're probably going to PG it, so that's why that goes back to your personal credit. So if they're like, all right, let me pull your personal credit, and your personal credit is a 700, a 650, if it's a good credit score, then they'll give you money towards your business because they can trust you. But you can literally open an LLC today, go to the bank and say, hey, can I open a line of credit? And they'll give it to you. Yeah. Now, the back end, the underwriting system, you probably, I built relationships with the banker to understand their underwriting system. I want to learn where they pull from. I want to learn if there's any points that I need to hit. But I went to the bank and I'm like, hey, can I apply for business credit? And I'd be like, yeah. And then I walk out. It might be just $5,000, but that's $5,000 more than I already came with. And it's in my business instead of my personal. Yeah. But a hack that I've learned is, let's just say, like Key Bank, it's not here, it's in Philly. But when I first opened up a bank account, they denied me for business credit. And she was like, just come back in 6 months because my business, my LLC was too fresh and I didn't have nothing under it. I literally made it like a week ago and I was like, all right, let's just try it. So what I did was I put $5,000 in there and I just took it out. I put myself on a bi-weekly schedule. So I just wanted to create a paper trail. So I would go in there, deposit the $5,000, let it sit for 1 week, then go back the next week and pull it out. Then the next week deposit it back in. So what it looks like is that although I'm taking out $5,000, I'm getting it back. So now I'm creating a paper trail. So when I go to the bank 6 months later and they have 6 months of history and I'm asking them for money, I'm like, hey, can I get a line of credit? And they're like, yeah. And instead of the $5,000 they might have gave me 6 months ago, now I'm looking at $20,000 because they know that I'm creating revenue. All I'm doing is just pull it out and putting it back in. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds dope. I would never know. Okay, you
it's always a little loophole and stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate the free game. Do you have a course, or do you have have you started the course yet, or you?
So right now I don't have courses, but I do a lot of speaking engagements. I feel like that courses, I'm more of a in-person or like an online type of person, so I don't really do courses. I mean, people tell me all the time, just do courses and record and then just send it out. But the type of entrepreneur that I like to ask questions, and I want to be that person when individuals have questions, they can just be like, oh, hey, like on a Zoom call, they just ask me a question. Yeah. But 2023, I probably will roll out some type of course just so people can have access to it because I'm not always available, so they can always refer back to that. So it'll be very simple, easy to understand because I'm very like a step-by-step type of person. So if I can provide that to other people, then I'll just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what about like what do you think like you could like toot your own horn when it comes to like helping your clients, like from somebody who may have been the lowest credit score to like get them to like a great number where it's like, oh my gosh, like maybe I'm maybe lowballing it, like saying you got somebody at a 400 to 700. Like, have you ever done anything like that?
So my first, I think he was around my 10th client. So he came to me with like a 503. Like it was very low. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. This is not going to be a 3-month process. This is not a 90-day process. I am not God. I cannot work a miracle, but I can tell you I can fix it. But you just going to have to give me some time. And this particular client was very patient, and I gave him steps and tools to do, and he literally followed everything I said to the T. So all his accounts that was on there were negative. So if you look at your credit report and you see anything red or yellow, that's not good. So he had a lot of red. He had about 5 things in collections. He had 3 charge-offs. So everything that was on his credit report was just basically sucking it out of him. Like it wasn't helping him. So I gave him a task. So my job was to get all the negative things off, but his job was to put primary lines on there. So primary lines is bigger lines. So Tomo Credit, they gave him a starter card, and I think it was about like $500. But his objective was just to keep that account open and pay that account on time. Don't be late. If you're gonna max it out, make sure you pay it before it's due. So that was another hack that I taught him as well. Like, okay, so to increase your credit score, to get higher limits, what you want to do is you can max the card out, but then you got to pay it back down before it's due. So before it reports to the bureaus, you want to make sure that you pay it back down.
What do you mean pay it back down? Like, say it's a $50,000 credit card. You talking about pay it back down to like $10,000?
No, to $50,000.
Oh, okay.
Because what is that going to do to the bank is they're saying like, all right, we're giving you $50,000 and you're using it, but you also are responsible enough to pay it back down. However, if you don't think that you're going to be able to pay it back down, I'm not buying nothing on it. So like I do something called manufacturer spending as well. So this is how you get free travel reward points, like you get free hotels, everything like that, because one of my cards is a travel card. So when I pay for flights and when I pay for hotels, you get points for that. So what I do is I send myself an invoice for like $5,000. So if I send myself an invoice through QuickBooks for $5,000, I use a separate email outside of my business email. I just paid on my credit card. And then from that, the money goes to my debit card, and that $5,000, I just put it back on my credit card. Oh. So now I got the money. So now I got the money, I got free money, and now I got all the points.
And which card was this again?
It's a travel rewards card. You can do it with any card. Amex, Navy Federal, whatever type of credit card you have, you can do it. Like even with cashback rewards card. My favorite card to do is my Apple card, because Apple does 10% with Nike. So what
Apple has a card? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite cards. If you and your spouse have like Apple cards, y'all can put each other as authorized users on there, and then it'll report as you. Instead, if you have a $5,000 card and I have $5,000, now it's gonna report that you got $10,000 on your credit card. Really? But you got to be responsible, because if that person maxes out the card and don't pay it, it also reflects you.
Yeah.
So, but with Apple, at a point in time, they had a 10% cashback with Nike. And the app called Rakuten has 10% with Nike. So that's 20% cash back that I'm going to get. Yeah. So what I would do is I went on Nike and I bought, I sorted from high to low. So I bought, I think it was like either 2 or 3. At the end of the cart, it was about $5,000. So what I did was I purchased $5,000 worth of stuff from Nike. I ordered it and I just took it back to the store. So the Apple card is on my phone. My debit card is on my phone. So when I went there and I'm like, hey, I can't fit this. My boyfriend doesn't want it. My son doesn't want it. And they're like, okay, no problem. So they were like, how would you like it returned? I put that money back on my debit card. So then that $5,000 is on my debit card, and then I put it back on my Apple card, but I got the 10% from Rakuten and I got the 10% from Nike. So that's 20% cash back. So now I got free money. So after that, I'm like, all right, now we got something cooking.
Man, I'm a visual learner. I'm going to have to write all this down. At this end, I'll be writing. I'm like, okay, so we did this. Okay, that one. No, but okay. So that's it. So, and I guess that's a question mark, because I'm one of the people, like, I'm terrible with using like gift cards, and I'm the same way. I think I'm terrible with even utilizing the points on my credit card. I guess I was never taught that way.
Right.
Like, I was like, you get your credit card, you get the money, that's your revolving line of finances, and boom.
Right.
So all that other stuff, like, honestly, I never read into. I don't think the average person I know does. You know. So like, why do you think like using those points are important? You know, when it comes to like business credit and stuff like that. Simply
because I don't want to pay for a vacation. I don't think that I mean, the average American probably takes maybe one vacation out of the year. If I have the opportunity to go, last year I went to the Bahamas and I paid $200 for my flight and hotel. So having the reward points allows you to use that to pay for your stays, so you don't have to pay for anything, because you're using the reward points from your credit cards or using the cash back money. So it's like when you spend money, you make money, but I'm not really spending the money, so I just get to keep all the points. So I'm not coming out of pocket for anything.
Yeah, I think that's a question, us being like business owners, like, how do we utilize like, our credit cards to the best when it comes to like, especially like traveling, like, we do a lot of travel. We travel to conferences, we travel to, different networking events, to travel for vacation. So you think like the best way to do it is by getting these credit cards and using the points, or?
Yeah. So when you use the points, you're not coming out of money. So, sometimes, like, if my credit card, let's say they do three points when you book, 3 points when you book like a hotel, per dollar. So if the hotel is $1,000, I done got $3,000, and I can convert them $3,000, and it might be a flight. So now if I'm looking at a flight, and a flight is $600, and then 3,000 points can pay for the whole flight, I'm not paying for nothing, especially if I already really had to use the, if I didn't have to use the money myself.
Yeah.
And especially like for your everyday, so like my cash back card, certain places like gas, you got to fill your car up on gas. So when you get the money from your credit card, that's the free cash back. Apple has, I think the gas station is Exxon, so you get like 5% back when you use the Exxon credit card. So it's like I have to fill up gas, so now I'm getting the cash back, and I'm like, all right, well, I can use this money. It's Christmas, so I can use this money to, fund Christmas gifts instead of coming out of my personal pocket. So I definitely recommend, if you're able to use like your points, to maximize as much as you can, just so you're not cutting into your profit, and you're using like the bank's profit or whatever they have to offer. Essentially, like we said earlier, we weren't taught the pros of the credit cards. We were only taught the cons, like what not to do. But once you realize or understand what the positives come with having a credit card, it's like, well, if you move smart about it, you really can do a bunch of things for free.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to maneuver everything. And I think that's one of the best things that I learned about entrepreneurship and like credit is, once I kind of understand stuff, I know how to take it and just run with it.
Yeah. So do you think, like, because I know for us, I think us as minorities, my parents never really kind of were privy to this knowledge. So do you think, like, the ideals we have of, okay, mainly use your debit card, use your credit card for backup purposes? Like, that's how I think the average person kind of thinks. Do you think that's wrong, right, or what?
So with a credit card, with a debit card, you don't get any rewards for using your debit card. Like, you spend your money, you just spend your money. With a credit card, when you start using that money, you start getting points and you start getting cash back. So it's like, you spend $200, you might get $30 back. You're not doing that with your debit card. So you got to look at the perks, but it's only worth it if you're going to be responsible.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, people fall into the trap, so they spend more than what they can afford. So it's like, I have this $6,000 credit card, I'll go buy a $7,000 jacket. Well, you don't have $7,000, so why would you go buy, a $7,000 jacket? But it's like, oh, I have the credit card to do it, and it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But once you pretty much learn how to be financially smart about the moves that you're making with your money, it can become very beneficial. But one thing that I've learned in the early stages is to be just very organized. So I created like an Excel sheet. So my Excel sheet tells me my budget for the month, how much I want to spend, and make sure that it's in the budget for me to afford it. Because now when it's at the end of the month and it's like, all right, well, you spent $1,000 on your credit card. I had well over $1,000 in my account, so it was easy for me to pay that money back because like I budgeted everything else. But I would say in the beginning stages, only start with a little bit of money just to understand how it works before you start going all in and paying everything with your credit card, because you don't want to be in debt $20,000-$40,000 because you wasn't financially responsible about the choices that you were making with your your credit card. But I only say use your credit card for investments, not just to buy flashy stuff to look nice.
Because I think that's my next question too, because a lot of people even say somebody who may not be a business owner, maybe they just like have their own little side hustle, their hobby, and do you think it's still like wise for them to like stack up on credit as much as possible? Or, if they say I'll give you kind of numerically, like say they got a $20,000 credit card, right? But maybe on this side of the business they may make $200 a month, just like a side hustle. Do you think like it's smart for somebody to still have that in the back end just in case to use? Like I know you said that they strategically know how to manage their money.
Right. So it comes down to the profit that they're making with their business. So I feel like a lot of times that if I start a business right now, I'll be honest, I'm funding my business using my personal or my business card. I'm not coming out of my pocket. Then if it fell, that's for me to figure out how to, to get the money back and pay the loan off. But I recommend that if it's worth the risk, then always use other people's money, OPM. I never recommend using your own money to fund your dreams. Business owners or, these $1 million businesses, they file bankruptcy all the time. So if everything is set up correctly and your business fails, you can take the LLC and just file bankruptcy with the LLC, and that doesn't affect you because you're two separate entities. Here's another hack. You can put your student loans into your LLC, which is your business, let it age, and then file bankruptcy and now you don't got to pay your student loan.
Oh, okay.
So how do you, these are like, these are what y'all ain't here for me, but but these are what like, million dollar, people do it every day. Like, I don't want to pay for this no more. We just gonna file bankruptcy, and then it's obsolete because it's not connected to your personal anymore. So I would say like, again, it all just comes down with being responsible and being strategic about the investment or anything that you want to do. But I would definitely say use OPM anytime that you have that you really want to do something. But I think you just got to go all in. Like you just got to be consistent. And I think that's one of the things that I've taken from the gym is being consistent, because when you're consistent about something, you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish. Because I have an issue with starting something and then stopping it. And then I'll be like, all right, let me try again. And I'll be like, well, I'm not seeing any results. And the reason why I'm not seeing results is because I'm not being consistent. So let me try something a little different. And then when I moved here and I started going to the gym, and then I'm like, okay, well, if you can go to the gym for a week, let's see what 2 weeks look like, and let's see what 3 weeks look like, and then so on and so forth. And it's like, all right, well, when you're consistent for a certain period of time, then you start to see results. But I think my thing was jumping into entrepreneurship was I've seen everybody else around me moving and grooving and doing their own thing, that I was kind of comparing myself to them. But the biggest thing was you got to do your own race. So if I'm starting my own business, I got to be consistent at that before I start jumping into anything else. But once I learn how to use, like, all right, put your money on the back end, because that's kind of like, all right, if I maxed out all my cards, I know I got my own money to lean on. But that's literally my last resort. I'll probably go ask my mom for some money before I use my money. But it's like, all right, we're going to use other people's money, leverage that money, get it back, and then help me fund my business. But it all comes with like consistency.
Yeah. What do you? And you hit it right where I was about to talk about next, like leveraging. Like, you hear about over leveraging being a business, and using other people's money in OPM. But do you think, like, so say like you're a business and maybe you're grossing $200 a year, right? But you get $1 million in loans or credit. Do you think that's wise? I'm just using that as a numbers example, because even though you may not use all the money, you're just kind of having it there, like you said, just in case if you need to hire more staff or you need to, pay for overhead during the slow season and stuff like that. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
As long as like if you're not using the money, it's not hurting you. But it's like if you have a credit card and it's like you don't pay interest if you're not using the money, so it's just sitting there. But let's say you have a hard money lender and they're like, all right, well, after 18 months, you got to start paying interest on the money. So it's like, well, if you don't use the money, then just give the money back. But on a credit card, it's just like, all right, I'm not paying interest on it, so I might as well just keep it.
So what about loans? Like if you're paying interest from the get-go, like when you get like a loan?
Then I would say it depends on how much the interest rate is. But if you're sitting on the money, then just give it back, because all you're doing is just letting time go by. If you got approved for the loan the first time and you don't need it, then you can get it back again. So I would just give it back, because it's like, all right, if they say tomorrow, most of the time though they'll give you a little leeway before you start paying. But they'll say, let's say tomorrow you got to pay interest on the loan, and it's like, all right, it's been 60 days, I haven't made no moves yet. Let me just give them the money back, and then whatever I owe as far as the interest, I'll just pay that on top and just letting it linger on. But that just
affect your credit. Sorry, I mean, you just made me think about that.
Does the interest affect your credit?
Or even like the money back from like a loan or your credit, a line of credit.
So if it's under a year, then no. So because the thing with personal credit is that with time, that's how you build your credit score. So if you if you get a loan today and then you're like 6 months later, I don't need this loan, then it didn't help or hurt your credit, so you can just give it back. But if you had this loan for, let's say, 5 years, and it's a 7-year loan, you taking away that extra 2 years. So now it's like you're going to tank your credit score because you closed out a loan.
Yeah.
So in that case, that's why I would say you just got to be strategic about what you want to do when it comes to money, because you don't want to feel like, oh dang, I'm just letting time passing me by and I'm paying for no reason.
Now what about business credit? I know you said personal credit. If you give it back will it affect your business credit? If you give it back like in more than a year, less than a year?
No, so with business credit it's different. So if you give it back 2 months from now or 6 months from now, then no, it doesn't. It doesn't make a difference.
So all you have to basically do is pay the interest that was on the loan and just give the full amount of the money back.
Right. But a lot of times when you do get business credit, they give you like 12 months, 24 months, 18 months before interest even hit. But that's how they get you. Because it's like, all right, they're expecting you to max out these cards in 3 months, because if they're giving you $15,000, if somebody never had $15,000, they're like, all right, we're going here, I'm doing this, and before you knew it, you blew the $15,000. The 12 months is over, and then that 24.9 interest rate hits you. So now you're paying way more than what that you could afford, and now it's like, dang, I just used this money and I could have put it in investment. The whole point of having business credit is to be able to fund that money to invest in something and be able to get it back plus more. So you just want to make sure that the business that you invest in, that's why people pretty much go into real estate, because they know that they're going to get that money back. And there's loopholes around real estate where you can kind of and fluctuate the prices and kind of get that money back to make sure that you are being able to pay the loan back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm not a real estate guru. I know a little something.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. So, I mean, what would be like your advice if, you're somebody just starting like a business, or you're considering it, you just on the verge of having an ideal of what you want to do, and, you did your LLC, EIN, all that. Would you say, like, start building your business credit from the get-go, even if you're not generating any income, and try to get these credit lines and credit cards? Or would you say kind of like wait till a certain time?
I would say it's never too late to start or never too early to start. I'd rather start early than late, because you can start getting your net 30s and start building your business credit as soon as you open a bank account. So I would say if you have a business, even if it's like, I've made LLCs and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this LLC, but I'd rather have an LLC where I know if I can get some money from it, then it's available, versus it's like, all right, I'm just going to let it sit. So I would say start building your business credit, and then you can also focus on your personal as well. But I would definitely say that it's smart to start building that business credit as soon as everything is set up right and everything's get-go and you got the bank accounts and everything. So just start. Yeah. Better safe than sorry. So
yeah, they have it just as that cushion. That's what I think about too. Yeah, but man, I that's great info, man. So I guess, like, what would be like your biggest advice to like anybody who's like a business owner whose credit is not doing well right now, and they're kind of like, oh shoot, what do I do?
Well, follow your Instagram.
Okay.
But I would say if your credit isn't where it needs to be, I would highly recommend that you start now, because what they're doing is they're rolling out something called FICO 10. So basically, FICO 10 we're on FICO 8 right now. As far as the credit system. So FICO 10, they basically see your credit history up to 24 months. So if you were late or you filed bankruptcy 2 years ago, they're going to see that. So it's going to tank you, or you're not going to be able to get enough money that you would be before right now, because they can see all your past history. So when people start getting more educated, they start trying to make things a little more harder.
Yeah.
So if you are that person that's like, oh, well, my personal credit isn't the best right now. Now is the time before all banks across start, using FICO 10, because now it's kind of like you're going to be stuck a little bit, and it's going to be harder for you to do your disputes. It's going to be hard for you to get more money. So
personal and business?
No, for personal. But that goes along with, like, Bank of America, they might PG stuff. So they might say, all right, we'll give you this business card, but we got to pull your personal. And it's like, well, dang, my personal is a 560, so I know I'm not getting no money from them. So that's why I feel like now is the time to just really, like, get that personal together. And then, like I said, you can do two things at one time. Like, I can have an assistant work on my business or my personal, and I can do the other one. Like, you just got to find ways around it. Yeah. Like, right now, as far as my business, it's pretty much automated. I'm like the face, I do all the talking. Yeah. I do all the engagements. But as far as the back end, I have a team that does everything for me. So while they're doing that, then I start, doing all the ground running. So if I'm going to the banks, my assistant's not going to the banks because they're not acting as me. Yeah. So I'm doing all the groundwork for opening up the business accounts and building a relationship. So that's another thing. When I'm talking to these bankers, I'm hitting the key points like, oh, okay, well, what do I need to do this, or where do I need to do this? And then on the back end, I know that my team is handling everything that I can do, but it's like I'm trying to do something else, so y'all got to do that for me. But I would definitely say you got to right now is probably the best time to get your personal credit together, because you don't want to be later, like, let's say in June, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm trying to go to the bank, get a credit card, and they looking at me like, oh, well, you just had a late payment 2 years ago.
So you're saying right now with the FICO 8, they're only looking back how far?
I think they're only looking back about like a year. Okay. But with FICO 10,
skipped from 9 and went to 10.
Yeah, they just said, oh, see you now, we're going to 10. So now it's like that bankruptcy that you had, it went off, but now they're still looking at it like, well, you filed bankruptcy in your personal, so it's going to be harder. I know it's going to be harder to get money. Yeah. So now it was like the perfect.
And business, or maybe just personal?
This is just personal. This is just personal. Okay. With business, you can have 7 LLCs. Mm-hmm. And every LLC can file bankruptcy, but it won't affect you. Mm-hmm. But with your personal, it's going to be a whole different ball game. And normally, most people start with their personal, lever their personal, and then go to business. But if you don't have no personal leverage, then it's like you kind of just stuck because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah. What do you think should be like the ideal credit score for somebody who wants to leverage their personal one, transitioning over into like their business to make sure when they're applying for these credit lines or cards and they look over into, you said it's not called per PG. What did you say? What they're looking at when the business looks to your personal side? It's basically your personal.
Yeah,
score,
yeah,
right?
a personal guarantor.
Yeah. So what do you think is the ideal score? You know, that's like kind of realistic for the average person to have and do well and get these lines of credit.
So I always tell people don't really get caught up now. Once you start hitting like the 5s and the low 6s, all right.
Yeah.
But your score is not really what they're looking at. It's the report.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your 720, your 750, your 800. So you can have a 750 and you can have one secure card. That doesn't mean that you have a perfect credit score. You just have that one secure card and you've been paying the secure card for how long you've had it open. However, when they look at your report, they're looking at how many primary lines did you have, how many accounts do you have, were you late, when is your oldest credit card? So they're looking at that type of stuff. So a secure card doesn't hold a lot of weight because it's like the bank is kind of seeing if they can trust you. Versus your report is like, I have a car loan, I have a mortgage, I have student loans, I have maybe 5 credit cards. So they're seeing that I'm able to handle all of these things. And maybe my score might be a 680. And it's a 680 because 6 months ago I was late and it dropped my score 30 points.
Yeah.
So they're like, okay, this person with this 680, they have a lot more on their credit score. So we'll give her $15,000. But the person with a 750 with that one secure card that's $500, well, all we can see is you can handle with $500. So we're only going to give you $500 in credit because that's all we trust you with.
That makes sense. Okay, that's good to that's gold. So let me ask you. So what do you think are like the best like avenues for a business to go? Because I know right now, you know, business credit is kind of becoming more popular. People are talking more about it now. But you know, you hear about Navy and the other ones. Like, what do you think is like, if you're an entrepreneur, anybody just first starting off and like trying to get you maybe 3, you know, your top 3, like, you know what I'm saying, to start building that credit up, because you say they need to be primary, right?
Right.
Yeah, so what would be like your suggestion?
So my suggestion is go to credit unions because credit unions are smaller. So they're not competing with the Wells Fargos. They're not competing with the Bank of America. So credit unions, they're going to give you your money because they want you to stay. So it's like, oh, well, Bank of America just gave me $10,000. Y'all only give me 9, so I don't even want to bank with y'all. Oh wait, we'll give you 12 because we don't want you to go to Wells Fargo because they want your money. Banks make money off of us, so they're going to keep you. So I always say before you look at the Chases, the Wells Fargos, the Bank of Americas, go to credit unions because they're going to give you money. They want you to stay there. So everybody always raves about Navy Federal because they give you a lot of money. Like I said, Navy Federal gave me $25,000, but when I started looking at other credit unions and they're giving me $15,000 and they're giving me $20,000, I'm like, wait a second. Navy Federal ain't the only credit union out here. And even like when I'm moving here and I'm just driving around looking at different credit unions, I'm like, okay, let me write this down. I'm going to stop by there, talk to the banker and see what they can offer me. Like Truist, they have one of my friends just informed me they have like I think it's a 5 for one inquiry rule. So if you apply for a credit card today,
It's called who?
A 5 for 1.
Truist?
Truist, yeah, sorry.
Okay,
it was normally, I think it was called SunTrust and they just transferred to Truist. But if you apply for a credit card today, a business credit card, you can go back three months later and with that same inquiry, you can get another credit card.
From them,
yeah. Okay. So if they give you $10,000 today and you go back with another LLC saying, oh, hey, I want a credit card from this one. They're going to look at that same credit score. So let's say you had a late payment within the last 60 days and that other bank is not giving you money, but you can go to this bank and get another $10,000 with that same inquiry. So I was like, okay, now, and then Truist is not the same size as a Bank of America. You're not going to see as many Truists because it's smaller. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend every entrepreneur to at least get three accounts with credit unions because you're going to see how much more money that you're going to get with the smaller banks versus Bank of America is funding $1 trillion businesses. Yeah. A credit union is not funding $1 trillion businesses because they're not really known. So it's like, okay, well, y'all don't know, you're not giving so much money out to a lot of people. So let me be the first person. And then when a bank is smaller, you kind of can build that connection with the banker, know the underwriting system, start building connections, and then start opening doors because if you can refer them clients, now they're going to help you. It turns like a revolving door. I'm helping you, so you're going to help me. Yeah, I'm bringing in you customers. You giving me money. So that all goes with the networking. So now I think I'm off of work for like the next 2 weeks, so I'm hitting the banks hard, like hitting the banks hard. I literally just opened up an LLC, and I'm hitting at every single bank or every LLC I have. I'm that's like made in Texas. I think I have 4 that's in Texas, so I'm just going to hit every bank and just say, hey, like I'm just trying to open a bank account. You know, help me understand the underwriting process, hit the points, just so when it's 2023 that it's like, all right, cool. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm trying to buy because then I have the money. So
do you start the LLC for your clients too, or no? You don't do that part.
I do start the LLCs for my clients. So I have like different departments. So I have a personal department, I have an LLC department, and I have a business department. So some people don't need the LLC; they just need the business. Some people don't want the business; they just want the credit. The credit. So I'm just trying to be that one-stop shop. I'm trying to find somebody that do life insurance and incorporate that into the business as well. So a lot of people, minorities, don't have life insurance. And I always talk to people like, do you have kids? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, do you have life insurance? Yeah. No. And I'm like, so what happens if you pass away today or tomorrow? What your kids? What you leaving for your kids? That's a whole nother topic. That's a whole nother episode. But I do help with business LLC formation and for all 50 states and personal credit as well.
So let me ask you, and I could talk to you for hours, but what do you think is better? Like a business pulls their money out of these mainstream banks like Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, and just go directly and keep it in the credit unions? Or you think it's good to have like the variation of like maybe a bigger name corporation business like BOA, Chase, and then also have your credit unions on the side?
Yeah, I would say keep it diverse. Like Bank of America, I know that they'll give you, in the summer they were doing like, you can get like a $75,000 car loan. You can buy like 2 cars, the 2 for 1. That's when people were getting into Toro heavy, so they were going to Bank of America, buying a car loan in their personal name and business name. They're walking out with 4 cars. So I would say be diverse. Like you can have main businesses, but don't sleep on them credit unions. Like I'm more like I have Chase, I have Wells Fargo, I have Bank of America. But now I'm focused more on the credit unions to see what more could they give me. Because if I could sit there and convince that banker, like, all right, well, Bank of America is talking 50,000. So if you want me to stay in this, I need 75. It might be like, all right, I'll be right back. Let me go see what I can do. Let me make a few phone calls because. Like I said before, the banks make money off of us. They can't function if people don't bank with them. So it's like, okay, it's like, wait, you gave me 75,000. Now I'm about to refer my friend here to see if they can get 75,000. Yeah. So now it's like, okay, I'm opening doors for them. So I definitely would just say, just keep it diverse instead of, staying to that one secluded bank. So if you can have regular, bigger banks and credit unions, why not do so? Yeah. But be careful not to get in the check system. I know how to get out the check system. So sometimes
what's the check system?
They won't let you open bank accounts if you open too many bank accounts at one time because they're looking like, what are you doing?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a couple of my clients, they got in the check system. I just sent them the information on how to do it and how to get out. It's simple, but it's still a process. So
how often do you think you just space the time out, like when you open up different banks? Because I know we can open up several LLCs in a matter of a day.
Right. You know. I would say so. I start with 4. So I'm going to do 4 in a week. With every LLC. So I'll probably, that's like 16. If I have 4 LLCs, that's like 16 bank accounts I open up.
In a week?
Yeah, in a week.
Okay.
With 4 different banks. So I'm going to chill like for probably a month and a half. And then if I find another bank, then I'll go back. But sometimes I had a client, he opened like eight bank accounts and they flagged his account. So they were like, wait, we don't know what you're doing. We
they
see
that. Your EIN or your
Yeah,
LLC?
they flagged his EIN. So his personal as well. So he couldn't, right. So he couldn't open a bank account. So I had to tell him how to get out. And then once he got out, he was able to do it again. But it's like, you don't always have to move that fast. Just have, 4 is my favorite number, and I've never been wrong when I did 4. So I'm like, all right, let me just do 4 and then see what happens. But I would just say space it out. Don't try to do 10 in a month. That's a little excessive. So
that was a question. You just made me think about something else. Like, how do you feel like when people do that? Like, they'll go and they'll apply for 4 lines of credit or 4 loans within the same day, just so it doesn't like hit their credit or the creditors don't notice it. How do you feel about that? Like,
so you got to know like where they're pulling from for it to not affect your personal credit. So what we do is we call, my mentor told me, and it's called the pizza party method. So you order some pizza, get some friends, everybody have laptops, and then let's say I have 4 banks, and I know all 4 of the banks pull from TransUnion. So around 1 a.m., when it's the computer system, I'm gonna apply to the banks that pull from TransUnion. I submit all my information to everybody, and at the same time, we all click submit. Boom. So I got 4. I'm applying for 4 credit cards, but it's only 1 inquiry because at the same time. I mean, you can do it yourself and just open 4 different tabs, but it's more effective.
So it's through different banks and the same banks when you say you do
It's different banks, but they pull from the same credit agency. So TransUnion. So let's say we have Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, and Navy Federal. Let's say all 4 of them pull from Experian. 4 different banks, but they all pull from Experian. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to maximize how much money I can get. But with your personal credit, you have to remember when you start getting a lot of inquiries, then you start getting denied because the banks start looking like, why do you keep applying for all these things? Do you keep getting, whether if you keep getting approved or not, once you start hitting 15, 16, you're going to start getting denied because it's like you're applying for so much stuff in so little time.
Credit increase?
Yeah, the credit increase, correct. So what we do is you will apply for the banks that pull from the same credit agency, and then you submit them all at one time because it's only under one inquiry. So if you get approved for $20,000, that's fine. If you get approved for nothing, it's still under that one inquiry because you apply at the same time.
So it's almost 2:00. So you say at 2 p.m. If all 4 of us in this room, we go in and we just use Bank of, like you said, all the ones we use, and all we say submit. We have to hit the button all at 2 p.m. exactly.
Yes.
And then there's a better chance
you'll get that one inquiry, from whatever credit agency they pull from.
Even though it comes from different agencies?
Yeah. Even though it comes from, it's like you tricking the computer system, but you do it in the middle of the night because it's the computer and not a person.
But what about I get you. So that's why I'm thinking sometimes when we do it, we deal with a lot of people.
Right, you deal with people instead of the computer. Right. And then anytime you get denied over the computer, I always call the next day and ask and talk to a person and ask them, oh, hey, like I got denied. My credit score is this. My credit profile is pretty hefty. What's going on? Because you're telling you I got denied. Because sometimes it could be a glitch in the system, and then a person will reverse it. But it's easier to do it with that one inquiry versus if we're like on the phone right now, and I'm like, all right, we're all on the phone with this one person. Although they may pull from TransUnion, we're still talking to people. So it's like they all clicking. So instead of getting that 4 inquiries, you're only getting 1.
So how do you find out where these? On the website, does it tell you where these specific like?
Oh, of course not. You gotta so sometimes when I'm at the bank, I'll just ask like, where do you pull from? They'll be like, oh, we pull from TransUnion. Sometimes it's word of mouth. Sometimes just look it up.
Call them.
I call and just ask. But it's not going to be on the website. Like you look it up. You just, it's pretty much like if I know something, I'll be like, oh, hey Reggie, like they pull from here. Oh, this bank pulled from here. It's a lot of word of mouth with that. I have like sheets of stuff. One of the mentorship groups that I'm in, they gave us a website where like people just post constantly like, all right, I apply from this website and this is where they pull from. So it's like I look at it, I'm like, all right, cool. So if I know if my credit score is better on Experian than it is TransUnion, I'm going to go to these banks because I know I'm going to get more money with the Experian account versus this one.
And this isn't a pre-approval. This is a full approval.
This is a full approval, Full
in
approval.
a matter of minutes.
In a matter of minutes.
Like, we talking about business credit.
Boom.
We talking about 5, 10, 20. We ain't talking about $500. We talking about bigger numbers.
Yeah, 5, 10, 20, $30,000,
really?
limits. Yeah.
Okay, you got this spreadsheet. I'm gonna make sure I join.
I'll call like, hey, I'm going to this bank. Where they pull from? Like, especially since I'm not in Philly right now. If I'm going home, like, all right, I'm hitting the banks when I go home. I'm going in the KiKi bank. Where do they pull from? They're like, oh, they pull from here. But go across the street because they pull from there too. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I got 2 banks that's pulling from the same credit agency, so it's higher my chances to get more money than I need.
That's just genius. It sounds genius because maybe I'm a novice to it, but okay, that's good. Man, I mean, I got a lot more questions. We definitely have to do a part 2, but man, okay. So I guess my last question, like, so what is like for inspiration? But like, what's the most you like were wowed by that you got approved for when you like maybe the largest number that kind of was like unrealistic? You was like, oh my gosh, I got approved for this much, like.
I would say my very first credit card, like that. Once I got approved for that $25,000, it was like, what in the world? Like I couldn't breathe because it was like I'm young and I'm like, ain't nobody ever give me $25,000. And then when they say I have 12 months interest free, I'm like, hold up, 12 months business start. It's just straight money at this point. So it's like, well, if I know I can get approved for this, then I know I can get approved for something else, and I know I can approve for something else. So it's like. After I started getting approved for $25,000, $10,000, $5,000, I'm like, well, at this point, I know I can get approved for basically anything. So now it's like, all right, well, let's try to switch gears, and then let's do the business side. So the first time I did apply for business, I got denied. But the problem was my business wasn't structured properly. So then once I went back and did it, and I'm like, okay. And then we're like, all right, well, do you have some documents? That was another thing I learned about the correct numbers that say you don't want to walk in the bank and say, oh, I made $200,000 last year. Because when they start asking for tax returns, if you don't have the tax returns, then you just kind of SOL. But it's like, oh, I made $80,000. They're like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. They're not asking for no tax returns.
Yeah.
So when you say the right numbers, and then I'm like, all right, well, can I apply for a line of credit? Yeah. Can I do a credit card too? Yeah. And they're like, okay, now I got $20,000 in my business credit. It's like, okay, so then we got $20,000 off of one LLC, and I'm like, but I have another LLC.
Yeah.
Can I apply for that too? Oh yeah, of course. And then she's like, oh well, here go another 10. Okay, can I do another one? Oh well, we only give you 5. Well, I walked in here with nothing. So guess what? I'm walking out with $35,000.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice day. I'll be back. Next week, or I'm gonna try again in 90 days and ask for a credit increase.
Mm-hmm.
But once I realized like I really can do this, it was like, all right, now we got something. We got something going. But I think the thing was that a lot of times I'm very scarce or like fiery sometimes. So I could be my own worst enemy because it's like, all right, do I do it or do I not do it? But all I'm doing is just wasting time because eventually the interest is going to kick in. So they're giving me 18 months without interest and I'm just waiting. And it's like, well, now you got 17 months and then you got 16 months. Yeah. And here I am 12 months in. I ain't making no move yet. So it's like, I should have just waited. So now I'm just like, anytime that I'm applying for business credit, I'm very strategic about what I'm doing, and I'm making sure that it makes sense before I apply for that credit card. Mm-hmm. Because pretty much once you get acclimated with everything, you know you're going to get approved for certain stuff. Like you just go in there with no worries. Mm-hmm. I have friends that like will do the business for me, like get approved online for me, and they're like, oh hey, I just got you approved for $10,000. Mm-hmm. All right, cool, thank you. Now we got to start moving.
What's the largest amount you ever seen one of your clients get approved for?
I think my client he got a BMW. And I think the car was like $65,000. Uh-huh. So he paid for the car. He put a down payment from his personal. I think he got approved for about a $20,000 credit card. Mm-hmm. Put down. That's a whole other topic that you don't put down money for a car. But he put down money for the car and walked away to BMW.
You said you don't put down money for?
No, you're not supposed to put down no money for no car. That's
okay.
That's illegal.
Well, I feel bad about my life.
You gotta go back. You can go back and get the money back. It's the same thing. Like you're asking for a loan. So when you get a credit card, you don't put down the money for a credit card. Like you're not saying, all right, let me apply for a credit card. And they're saying, all right, if you want this credit card, you got to put down $5,000.
Yeah.
No, they just give you the money. It's the same thing with the dealership. You're asking for a loan, so you don't have to put money down in the loan. So why do I have to put down money for this car?
Yeah.
So it's a whole like you can get the money back because once you start using like the consumer laws and you start fighting them with it, then you can get the money back. Now I'm not saying you can get the money back in 30 days, but all that money that you put down towards the car, you'll get it back. Guarantee you'll get it back.
Okay. Well, yeah, KiKi, we definitely you've given a lot of jewels, a lot of gems. So we started kind of this new segment now, and where we got people in the crowd. If they want to ask you one question, if you're cool with it, or more than one question, I let them ask their questions now, before we end the episode. So, crowd, do y'all have any questions before we start? Come on over, Keith, so you can come over here and think we can hear you behind the scenes where Jazz is. So.
All right, so I wanted to know how do you build your kids' credit while they're underage? If that's possible.
So it really is a reflection of you. So you have to make sure that your personal credit is in good standing. Because once your child turns 18, you can add them as an authorized user to your account. However, if your payment history is messed up, or if you haven't been paying things on time, or if your utilization is significantly high, then it's going to mess them up. So the best thing for you as a parent is just to make sure that all your ducks are lined in a row, because once they turn 18, you can say, hey, I want to add my child on my credit history. And then they get on your credit report, they get an authorized user, they can get their own credit card, and they're already starting off with that 700 score, and they don't got to start with that 530, that 400. They don't have to build nothing up because the parents built the foundation for them. So it really just depends on how the parents set themselves up.
So you're saying, okay, they have to be 18 first. Mm-hmm. You can't do it before 18.
No.
You can't do anything.
But you can give them an LLC before they turn 18.
Okay.
So you can have the business together before they turn 18. So with business...
like Bella Sloan Enterprise.
Right. It's named after his daughter. So once they turn 18 or whenever they want to start their business, their LLC is already 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that all it's filed correctly. The taxes, they're putting money in there. A lot of people that I know, their kids have rental properties under their names, like LLCs and stuff. So when they go to the banks, when they're ready to buy stuff, they already have the the money, they already have the age, so it's like a no-brainer. They're getting endless amount of money and opportunity because their parents set them up for success.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say if you have a kid, get them LLC now. Like get them from the day they're born, get them LLC, because once they turn 10, they already got a 10-year LLC. Now say they don't want to do nothing, you can use a self-corp and just sell it to somebody, which people do every day.
So I've heard, I don't know if this is true in the past, for like parents to use the child's social security number on a credit card. Can you do that or no? Is that true or no?
Use the parent's child social.
The parent, like I say, I'm the parent. I would use my child and I would put maybe their social security number.
Oh, like you would get them a credit card, like so it's kind of like putting a bill under their name.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard people do that. I don't recommend doing that because the way that I know that parents like put a cable bill under their child's name that's 4, and then they don't pay the bill. So then when the child is 18, they got a debt in their name, and they're like, I was only 4. But as far as like an actual credit card, you can put bills under their name, but a credit card, no. Like you can't do that.
So bills under their name and not credit card.
Right.
And that will build their credit score
right
before they're 18.
The bill?
Yeah.
So it depends. I feel like if you have a bill that's $60, that's not really a bill.
Yeah.
So it's not really building nothing. That's why when it comes to like, cause it's so low. Like if you can't afford $60, then you don't need a $100 credit card. That's why when I say when it comes to the parent and they add you as an authorized user, technically they get a card. So whatever card you have, they get that card as well. So it's showing that they're responsible. That's how they're able to get that score as well. So if the parent credit score is messed up, then they're not getting the benefits that they would normally get if it was good.
Okay.
But I don't recommend like putting bills under a child's name at a young age. It's kind of pointless.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah, I had heard that. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Yeah. All right. We got another audience member who's going to come over and ask questions.
So if somebody like, as they come in and trying to get their credit together, even if it is low, like what are the first steps you would tell them like they should start working on to like rebuild their credit, and then after they rebuild their credit, how they get into business credit?
So the first thing I would say is pull your credit report. If you don't know your score, then how do you know what's on it? So just like when you look at a piece of paper, it should be very simple. So it should have your, one address, one job, one name. So you want to make sure all of that is just one. So you can't you can have multiple properties, but you only reside at one place. So you should only have that one thing. So make sure you have any, all discrepancies or inaccuracies removed off of your account. Once you get all that settled, you want to look down and see like what's actually hurting you. So have you been late? What are your inquiries? You can do the 24-hour method for Experian to get those inquiries off. You can start your disputes as far as trying to get any other derogatory remarks off. So once you are, in a dispute process with your personal, that's when you take your business LLCs and you start going to the bank and start opening, the different accounts, letting the money sit in there, building those type of relationships just to help with your business and the banking process with your business credit. And then you start building your net 30s, ordering, stuff from Uline, Grainer, all that fun stuff. So you can kind of just handle 2 for 1, but definitely the first thing you want to do is make sure in your personal that all the inaccuracies and anything that is not yours is removed, if anything, because you don't want to try to dispute something, or you don't want to try to pay for something and you have nothing attached to it.
Okay. Well, good. Anybody else? All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time. So I always like to ask everybody this question. How long you been doing this time? How many years now?
3 years, 4 years. Well, 4 years, 5 years by myself, but it's 4 years for business.
Okay. So where do you, I'm big on like reverse engineering. Like where do you see yourself? What's the end goal for KiKi? Like what do you want to achieve? Like, so when you look back at this interview, you'll be like, all right, bet I did that. Like, what's your end goal for getting into this and doing this? What do you want to do?
I would say that I want to be able to help at least 4,000 people with their personal credit, and have them be able to break the generational curses that we were all like introduced to as far as financial literacy. So if I'm able to sit back and I'm like 80 years old, my business is running, automatically, everything is fine. But as long as I can say like I've helped 4,000 people improve their lives and change generations after them, and I feel like I've done. Like I had a greater impact than anything else. So I just want to be able to impact and have people like, yeah, I learned something from that girl. Like if anything else, I taught at least 4,000 people how to break these generational curses and prepare the next legacy to be better than what they are today.
You be a foe of the 4,000 today, so I appreciate you. So okay, so cool. So I mean, we at the end of this year. So what's your goal kind of for next year?
My goal is to close on 4 properties. Like I said, my favorite number is 4. Mm-hmm. So I want 4 properties back at home. I want to open a coffee shop, but I have to learn how to do it first. So I want to be more insightful about a coffee shop.
Why a coffee shop?
Because you don't have like coffee shops that we have at home.
Really?
So like the difference between Houston and Philly is like the breakfast stores. Uh-huh. I'm craving a breakfast sandwich. Like I can't call and be like, hey, let me get a bacon, egg, and cheese, go in and come out. Yeah. It's like y'all don't have mom and pop stops
we got
here.
Some good breakfast spots.
But it's not like, all right, I'm coming. Hey, Linda, I'm coming to get my breakfast. Yeah. My breakfast sandwich. I'm walking in and walking out. And then the coffee shops that I have been in, they only serve pastries and cookies. Yeah. I want some grits. I want some pancakes. And I want to be able to sip my coffee, read my book.
We got the Breakfast Club for that. But the line long.
The line long. That's what see. Look, it's not. And then if I want the Breakfast Club, I still gotta wait to get the food. Like I just wanna. Mm-hmm. I have not found anywhere that can cook me some grits and a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich on potato bread. And just be able to walk in and walk out.
So that's what you're gonna do.
That's what I'm gonna. I'm gonna be that.
You found the void in the market, so you're gonna feel it. I like that. Okay, cool. So is that it? Coffee shop, 4,000.
Coffee shop, 4 properties in Philly.
4 properties in Philly. Why not Houston?
I'm still learning the market out here, but I feel like that I want to buy. Long term goal, I want to buy a block like the block that I was raised on, like where my family is from. Mm-hmm. I want to buy the entire block.
So you want more residential versus
residential,
commercial.
Yeah. Okay. I only want that coffee shop, and whatever happens after the coffee shop in Houston is that. But I know Houston has a lot to offer, so I'm not tapping out. My mentor actually is. I'm trying to convince him to start investing here, and I've seen like multiple units that's like 16 units, 20 units, and that's what he wants to get into. But I really don't move when it comes to property without him. So, because that's my go-to. Like he knows real estate like it's the back of his hand. So, if he doesn't really know the area like that, he's not going to tap into it. So I'm trying to definitely push him to come out here and just learn the area more. But definitely in Philly, I want to at least have four houses on one block by the end of 23. Okay. That's definitely like my overall goal.
Okay, that's dope. That's so exciting. You said your mentor. Last question. Anybody you want to shout out, for inspiration, like your mentor, anybody that you helped to get you here to the point you're at, since they'll probably hopefully they'll watch this,
So my mentor, the one that I always give my props to, the one that pushes me the most, Instagram is DS Boone. He's a real estate genius. He's the reason behind everything that I've done as far as buying a house, starting a business. I feel like he's the person that allowed me to believe in myself because I was quick to doubt myself, and it was like, my first $10,000 came from him. Like my first 20 grand came from him. So it was like, anytime that he has the opportunity to mention me, he does. So it's like
he's in Houston or Philly.
No, he lives in Philly. Okay. When I went to Philly 2 weeks ago, it was because he had an event. He called me on Monday and said, "Hey, I got an event this weekend. You better be here because you speaking." So I'm like, I had no intention about speaking, but it was like, if you say move, I'm coming because I know that you're not going to lead me to a strike. So definitely want to give all the props to Derek. Like I said, his name on Instagram is DS Boone, a real estate genius. And he also pushed me to follow Herman, Haitian CEO. He definitely, Herman pretty much gave me the game, and I just took it and ran with it. Haitian CEO. And
I want to shout out to Herman too because he's a big reason why I actually wanted to connect with you after watching Herman for months on months and just like following him religiously. He's actually privy me to knowing what just the simplistic things of business credit are on. And shout out to David Shands too, Social Proof Podcast, because that's who I found out about that. Then I saw you were doing it, and I was like, oh, okay.
It all comes around full circle. So like Derek introduced me to Herman. I took Herman's mentorship, and I'm like, okay, so I knew a little something. I'm like, but I ain't know nothing. So it's like, okay, and that's another thing. Like he gives you the game. It's your job to execute, and once you get the game, it's like, all right, there's no reason why. Like my mentor said, there's no reason why in 2023 you should be broke because it's ample amount of opportunity. People is giving out endless game. There's so much to learn and there's so much to do. So definitely want to give a big shout out to Haitian CEO and DS Boone.
Okay. And where can the people find you at? Let them know.
On Instagram, my Instagram is KiKi KiKi _MONROE _.
Okay, did you LLC the credit guy yet?
No, that's not like that's like a little thing I just put in my bio.
Okay.
But now that you mentioned that, I might as well.
Yeah,
I may have to. Look.
Sorry, yeah, but man, KiKi, thank you so much.
No problem.
We appreciate it, man. I definitely got to get you on for a part 2. So, all right, KiKi, well, thank you.
Thank you.